Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's video. So that's going to take us around the 29th of September, heading towards the end of the month really with the week to 10 day time frame. We'll extend up beyond that with the extended GFS and Ensemble over until around a couple of weeks. And we'll have a look at Beijing Climate Centre today for the next 40 days. So that's going to take us pretty much to the end of October, I suppose. We'll begin by having a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic though, because it looks like it's all going on, so I think better start there. So loads of interest areas. Let's deal with Imelda first of all, just here in the southeastern part of Texas. So this is tropical depression Imelda. It's giving sustained winds of 30 miles per hour, a central pressure of 1009 millibars, and it's moving north-northwestwards at 5 miles per hour. I would think this system will be dissipating as it moves further inland across Texas and most of the areas in the next few days. We've got two yellow X's, so let's deal with them. We've got a yellow X just here in the Caribbean, so that is disturbance 2 with a 10% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours and a 10% chance in the next 5 days. They're saying a large area of disorganized showers of thunderstorms near and to the southeast of the Dominican Republic is associated with a tropical wave, while upper level winds are not forecast to be conducive for significant development. Locally heavy rainfall is possible over portions of Dominican Republic and Haiti during the next couple of days. The disturbance is forecast to move slowly westwards over the weekend. There's another disturbance area just there, further into the tropical Atlantic. That's disturbance 1 with a 0% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours and a 30% chance in the next 5 days. They're saying a tropical wave located around 1,000 miles west of Cape Verde Islands is producing disorganized cloudiness and showers. Some development of this system is possible while the system approaches the Windward Islands this weekend, or when it moves across the eastern Caribbean Sea early next week. So nothing's going to happen with that right now, but it needs to be kept a close eye on over the weekend and into next week. We've got Tropical Storm Jerry just here. That's where Tropical Storm Jerry is, in between those two yellow X's. So this one is giving maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour. It's got a minimum central pressure of 995 millibars, and it's moving northwestwards at 16 miles per hour. Let's click on Jerry and see if we can find a little bit more information about it. So current position of Tropical Storm Jerry is just there. Looks like any time in the next day or so, or next few hours I suppose, it's going to go up to a Category 1 hurricane, and then it's going to push in that direction over the next couple of days. By the time you get through to Sunday, it's gone down to a tropical storm. It's forecast to go down to a tropical storm before perhaps powering back up to hurricane status early next week and heading perilously close to the Bermuda Islands. Let's have a look at the wind speeds with that as part of the discussion. So at the moment it's giving 70 mile an hour winds. It goes up to a Category 1 hurricane, giving 80 mile an hour winds shortly. I mean, it's sort of on the periphery between being a tropical storm and a hurricane over the next few days. It doesn't look as though this is forecast to get any stronger than a Category 1 hurricane, but we shall see. Sometimes these systems do power up very, very quickly, surprisingly. So that's certainly what happened with Dorian, you'll remember. And then finally, we've got Hurricane Humberto up here. This hurricane's been around for a little while now, so currently giving maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. That's major hurricane. 952 millibars, and it's moving northeastwards at 22 miles per hour. If we click on Humberto and have a look at the static images, we can see that at the moment we have got this major hurricane just here. It's going to go down to category 2 over the next 24 hours or so. And then as it goes through into the end of Friday into the weekend, it's moving quite quickly as a post-tropical storm by that time. So once this system weakens, it looks like it's going to very dramatically weaken. Have a look at the wind speeds for Humberto. So you'll see that right now it's giving 125 mile an hour winds, which is a major hurricane. Within the next 12 hours, it's gone down to 110, so that takes us back to category 2. And then by tomorrow, it's down to 85 miles per hour. So it's going to rapidly weaken over the next 24 hours or so, back down to category 1 status in around 24 hours time, and then going post-tropical very quickly after that. So it's all going on in the tropical Atlantic at the moment. We can see all of these disturbance areas. This is probably just about the peak of the hurricane season, although October can be pretty active as well, but definitely a lot to keep an eye on over the next few days. Central temperature is looking like this, coming back closer to home, so not particularly exciting at all this month with the CET. We're currently standing for September 2019, excuse me, provisional up to the 18th of September, currently standing at 14.1, which is bang on the 61 to 1990 average up to this point in September. Now, this is probably going to lift up a little bit over the next couple of days. We are in for some pretty warm weather, I think, as we get through to the end of the week and the weekend. So it may go up to around 14.5, something like that, I would have thought, by the end of the weekend, possibly a little bit more. And then next week, probably dropping back down again. So it doesn't look as though we're going to have a particularly big deviation either way. We are having some quite chilly nights as well this month. And so that could mean they don't always factor in these colder nights all that well. So that could mean that at the end of the month we get a biggish downwards correction. I'm just speculating about that. I'm not getting any evidence to back it up. But sometimes when we do have these months that have quite cold nights, we do tend to get a bit of a larger downwards correction at the end of the month than other times. So actually it could possibly be, but right now we are in the 13s, let's say perhaps around 13.8 or 13.7 rather than the 14.1 that's shown there, if you was to factor in the downwards correction that we're going to get at the end of the month perhaps. So we shall see about that, but anyway, it doesn't look as though it's going to be a particularly exciting September with very little deviation either way by the time we get through to month's end, I would have thought. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts from the Penn State University for next week, 10 days. It's taking us pretty much to the end of September now. Gets us to the 29th of September. Got the ECM WF on the top and the GFS, which we'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. Red and orange extrapolate high pressure, blue to low pressure. Now we're seeing a re-emergence of northern blocking, a re-emergence of high pressure setting up around green, which is quite interesting because we had lots of northern blocking through the summer, but as we got into September, actually the AO and the NAO, which I'm not going to show you for this video, but the AO and the NAO have been trending positive actually through September, so quite a change and losing the northern blocking through September so far that we have had through much of the summer. But it looks like northern blocking could be coming back as we get through to the week to 10-day time frame, so through to next week and heading towards month's end. It does look as though blocking is returning, and we've got this trough of low pressure underneath it look across the UK and northwestern parts of Europe. The jet stream being pushed southwards as well, so if anything that looks pretty cool and pretty unsettled. Now we do have some ridging down across southern Europe. We've got some high pressure there that might try and push northwards, but on the face of it, it looks like we're going to have a pretty cool and unsettled end to September. The GFS is very similar. If anything, it's even stronger with the northern blocking around Greenland. That's sending the low pressure, the trough of low pressure southwards with the jet stream as well. We're on the cool side of the jet there. and just a much more autumnal spell of weather as we get through to the final week or so of September. You will notice a big change in the weather, I think, next week compared to what we've been used to through most of this September. Autumn properly on the way. But it's interesting that we've got northern blocking seemingly coming back. Where that goes as we head in towards October will be quite interesting to see, I would have thought. But after a little break from northern blocking through much of this September, of course, as I say, we had a lot of blocking through the summer. After a break from it for much of this September, it looks like it's coming back and beginning to set itself back up again. That is quite interesting as we think about going into the autumn and into the winter too, perhaps. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We've still got warm weather to go, so we're close to average with the upper air temperatures at the moment. We're having cold nights and warm days. Couple of days of very warm upper air temperatures on Friday and Saturday, really lifting up there. And again, we could see temperatures on Saturday afternoon, possibly 25, even 26, around 80 Fahrenheit in London. But once that's out of the way, the temperature drops, and it looks as though after that, really, we're trending pretty cool, I have to say. Certainly no better than average, possibly cooler than average through these closing days of September and into the opening days of October. There are one or two really quite cold outliers beginning to appear as well, going down to -5 at 850 HPA through the first week of October. That's very extended range stuff, and they are outliers, not well supported by the GFS Ensemble, but if they came off, they would probably deliver us our first widespread frost of season. Possibly even some wintry showers for northern parts of Scotland. The year really is getting on now. Precipitation-wise, we also see big changes ahead as well. So next few days continues to be dry up to the weekend, but then later in the weekend and through to next week, got all these precipitation spikes coming back. That takes us to month's end. Does look as though the last week of September is shaping up to be cool and pretty wet. Possibly, just possibly, a drying trend through the first week of October. But that's very extended range stuff. It's unreliable. But maybe we see high pressure coming back from the early part of October. Of course, that high pressure doesn't necessarily have to be particularly warm. In fact, it could be a cold area of high pressure if it was associated with these cold upper air temperatures. With these outlier members, we would see that high pressure delivering frost night and morning probably. Temperature anomalies from the 19th to 27th of September are still a little bit above average, so we've got some warm weather to come up to the end of the weekend. Definitely then next week temperatures will be on the slide. Precipitation anomalies are gradually day by day just starting to get a little bit more unsettled now. So this would be an anomaly from the 19th to 27th of September. Generally most places close to average, still not wetter than average yet. Expect these anomaly charts to trend cooler and wetter in the days ahead. That's how the GFS is looking for Sunday. So on Sunday, high pressure is breaking down. The centre of high pressure, which is right over top of the country right now, moves very quickly actually. So by Sunday, the centre of that high pressure is actually over towards the Black Sea. Really breaking down very quickly, and we've got this low pressure in the Atlantic developing and moving our way. Sunday will be a showery day, and after the warmth for Saturday, it will start to turn a little bit cooler as well. That's Monday. The next area of low pressure is moving in off the Atlantic on Monday. That with us again on Tuesday too. This low pressure contains the remains of Hurricane Humberto as well, this area of low pressure that is sitting just to our west. So I think we've probably got two bouts of rain across the country Monday and Tuesday. Then into Wednesday and Thursday and Friday next week, low pressure dominant, so showers or longer spells of rain. But notice what's happening to the north, high pressure with these yellow colours appearing over Greenland. We've got northern blocking coming back to our north, low pressure with jet stream being forced southwards. We saw it on the height anomaly flow chart. That's taken us into a cool and unsettled spell, increasingly cool and unsettled through the second half of next week. Up to day 10, that's how we're looking. Low pressure then is clearing away to the east. Notice the northern blocking again, that's sitting around Greenland, 1,040 millibar area of high pressure over Greenland, with those yellow colours telling us it's a genuine area of high pressure, and starting to force down some cooler air, or quite cold air even, from the north or northeast as we go towards the end of the month. That will be a very autumnal sort of feel. Into the extended range, with this particular GFS run, the high pressure begins to sink back down across the country through the first week of September. That's within quite cold air though, so don't rule out the chances of that high pressure delivering some frost, but it is turning us drier once again through the first week of September. There's another sort of hurricane or tropical storm feature just there moving into the North Atlantic. As we get to the end of this particular GFS run, that remains of that hurricane tropical storm feature moving our way from the Atlantic. High pressure beginning to break. Looks like this is setting up quite an unsettled spell later into the first week of October. The GEM looking like that, so we're getting warm southerly winds on Sunday, but turning showery and cutting off that southerly with winds turning into the west. And then through the early part of next week, increasingly unsettled, low pressure bringing showers, if not longer spells of rain. Notice again the GEM is also raising heights up to our north, this time a little bit more focus towards the Norwegian Sea. But it's the same idea, heights rising to the north, jet stream pushed southwards, going onto the cold side of the jet, so cool, unsettled and autumnal through the middle and second half next week in particular. That's how we look as we get towards day 10. Quite an unsettled looking pattern. Low pressure's out to the northwest. You'll think that low pressure probably going to dive down into the country with heights rising behind it. And then the ECMWF is looking like that. So again, we've got those southerly winds on Sunday, but it will be rather showery too. And through next week, just turning increasingly unsettled. It's looking quite wet and windy actually through the course of next week. I've got a feeling that is probably Jerry just there, what is currently Tropical Storm Jerry, maybe some other feature. And then we go up towards day 10, and we're still looking unsettled, low pressure never far away, bringing up west-southwesterly winds, so probably reasonably mild, but I mean low pressure is close, so we'd have showers or longer spells of rain, not raising the heights quite as much to the north as the GEM does, the GFS I should say does, but nevertheless it's still a signal for high pressure to be building up to the north, signs of northern blocking for the last week of September. All models are looking much more unsettled through this final week of September. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today at day 10, which is the 29th of September from the Icelandic Met Office. So 15 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure over Greenland and low pressure underneath it. There's quite a deep trough. So that's very similar to what the GFS is showing at that time frame, pushing the jet stream southwards on the cool side of the jet. We've got northern blocking around Greenland. We've got a trough of low pressure over the UK. That's going to be cool and unsettled. 13 members of the ECM ensembles, including the operational run. That's a run we were just looking at with high pressure, with blocking up towards Greenland, but also extending down into the North Atlantic. Low pressure clearing away or exiting to our east. So quite unsettled with that, obviously, and pretty cool as well. Another 12 up here have northern blocking from Greenland to Scandinavia, trough of low pressure underneath it. That's going to be more of an easterly scenario, but still cool and unsettled. And then 11, again with some high pressure up towards Greenland, but also extending down the Atlantic towards France, low pressure to north of Scotland. That's probably the least unsettled and could be the mildest option. But really all members of the ECM ensembles are playing around with high pressure around Greenland. And then in 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 4th of October, 360 hours away. 15 members of the ECM ensembles with a mid-Atlantic ridge, extending down from our west, trough of low pressure to the east. probably mostly dry with that, and rather on the cool side as well. 13 have high pressure extending into the UK from the northeast. So the high pressure is actually centred to the north of Scandinavia, but the ridge extends down into the UK. That's going to be probably bring wind in from the northeast. Could be quite chilly with that. Mainly dry, but certainly quite chilly. You wouldn't rule out chance of frost with that, I wouldn't have thought, in the early part of October. 12 members of the ECM ensembles with a ridge out to the west of us. So again, mainly dry and quite cool. And then these are the warmest option. These 11 just here, they have heights, above average heights to our south and southeast, below average heights out to the northwest. Could be unsettled, but they're bringing in the wind from a southwesterly direction. So they're the warmest option. It does look as though early October now could be shaping up to be relatively dry, but potentially a bit on the cold side. And finally, Beijing Climate Centre. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period will take us from the 21st to 30th of September. Beijing Climate Centre wants to have an area of high pressure close to us in the next 10 days. Of course, that's how we're starting off, but this high pressure looks like it's going to break down through the course of next week. So, probably a little bit more unsettled than you would think just by looking at that. The next 10-day period is the 1st through to the 10th of October. This one looking very unsettled, below average heights over and to the north-northeast of the country, above average heights pulling out to the south and southwest, sending the jet stream and the flow to a northwest-southeasterly direction, and probably quite cool and unsettled too. The next 10-day period is the 11th to 20th of October, the above average heights then coming back across the country. That could be within colder air though, so yes, it does turn drier, but it could be a bit on the chilly side, maybe with some night frost. And then all change again for the next 10-day period. So this is a very changeable October if this is right. This is 21st to the 30th of October, with below average heights back to our west and feeding westerlies back in. That's turning, probably turning quite mild, but also turning cooler, also turning more unsettled as well, even if temperatures are lifting up a little bit. So there's a lot to keep an eye on over the next few days, definitely. We've got all of the action in the tropical Atlantic. We've got this ridge breaking down, drifting into the east of Europe, allowing low pressure in from off the Atlantic. And we've also got to keep an eye on the re-emergence, perhaps, of northern blocking, high pressure around Greenland as we go through the course of next week and head into the closing days of September. That'll be interesting to see where that goes as we get through into October. Could it be that the pattern that we had through the summer, which was very anticyclonic over the northern latitudes, lots of high latitude blocking, could it be that that's on its way back for October? If it is, we would be facing perhaps a cool and unsettled October, possibly with some early frost. We shall see about that, but definitely plenty to be keeping an eye on in the days ahead. Of course, we're keeping you updated at Gaz Weathers. Tomorrow we've got JMA Friday, which is your month-end look ahead, and we'll also have a week to 10-day video update too tomorrow. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.